At this time, I'd like to call the Adams Central Area School District regular meeting to order. Has the meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it is.
Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we do a motion for adopting the agenda, I'd like to move 7.2, the audit report, to right under 4.7. So that would actually be, we'll put it as a 5.0 as administrative report. With that and that change, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Jim, seconded by Joanne to adopt the agenda with the move to 5.0. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll start this vote with Joanne.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Lena.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. It passes 7-0. Melissa and Ron are excused for tonight. With that, Board of Education reports. Anyone?
I went and visited Grand Marsh a couple weeks ago. It was a good visit. I got to see the new room that they had constructed. Plus, I walked through the building and was able to watch the children get ready for Thanksgiving. It was right before Thanksgiving. So listening to stories, watching a lot of collaborative play, which was nice. And what I'm always struck by is all of this is busy and it's loud, but a lot of learning is going on. So I enjoyed my visit.
Okay.
Yeah, on November 15th, I went to Grand Marsh for the Veterans Tribute that they had out there. Just wanted to say thanks to the staff and the kids for a really good tribute to the veterans. And then last week went to the dinner at the middle school, attended by a bunch of kids who handed out food and drinks and stuff. Very, very well done. So thanks to them. And then I also want to mention I've been to several middle school basketball games. And my point that I want to make is that on the cheer squad, there's a student who has to use a walker to get around. And I would like to somehow have us commend the coaching staff for incorporating her into the cheers and to let her participate. I think it's a really unique situation that they've taken care of and done a great job.
Anyone else? I guess I'll go. I too attended a dinner at the middle school along with, I know Ron did. I saw Melissa there. I saw Jeff there. Jeff actually picked up my dirty plate, which is nice of him.
He did eat everything.
Also, I participated in what with something for the county called University, and the county has entered in a contract with the University of Wisconsin to help with some causes. The meeting we had the other night out at the Mountain View Country Club it talked about education, health, and the business community, and we all wrote down ideas. They take our ideas back to the University of Wisconsin. They try to pair us with a graduate student or somebody working in that area that might be able to help us with some of those ideas. Crystal Holmes was at our tables, as was Tom. Michelle was also at our table. But every table had somebody representing a university. They usually had a grad student and possibly one other person like we had. And it was a long meeting, 4 hours, but it was, I think, a lot of work got done. I've heard nothing for the participants there. There's about 30 participants in all from our area. It went very well, and I think that by April, you'll start seeing some results from that meeting. So hopefully, we'll have another report in April about some of the things we talked about at the education table. Some of those were teacher retention, daycare. Help me out, Tom.
Yeah, there were a number of educational issues from facilities, curriculum, childcare, like meaningful childcare from birth to 4K, looking at potentially looking at all-day 4K. Michelle or Crystal, I can't remember, there were about 9 educational projects. There were 8 or 9 healthcare related projects, and then 8 or 9 projects around economic development. And this was a competitive grant that the county wrote. Crystal helped for maybe the final day, adding some educational components. So it's the first time that this grant that's given out through the University of Wisconsin system that's been awarded to a county. Usually they pick one municipality and focus on the issues around one municipality, but because of the unique needs and characteristics of Adams County, we were able to secure this grant, and it was an interesting meeting. 4 hours it didn't seem too long. It was a good evening.
Any other board members? Go ahead, Jeff.
So I attended AFE. They had a family game night. That was a big success, a large turnout. Thank you very much. And then also went to the middle school for that. Another great turnout. I really appreciate getting the community involved, bring them into our schools and see what we do, see how great our children are, and give them the opportunity to excel and give back to the community. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? With that, moving on, Student of the Month, one of our favorite topics. Ms. McCarthy is going to present awards tonight.
Student of the month, yes.
And we're going to start with Grand Marsh. She's getting some help from some reindeer.
We have a colorful audience today.
Parents, if you'd like to take a picture, there's some places up here that you can come up and get a good picture.
That's so great. We're going to give her a hug then.
So this is Daisha Triplet, and I chose Daisha to represent Grand Marsh for many reasons. She's very kind and tries to help others to be their best. Polite and respectful are other words I would use to describe Daisha. I can always count on her to be doing what she's supposed to be doing. She's very conscientious and eager to please. Good work, Daisha.
Absolutely. On behalf of the school board, we'd like to give you this certificate recognizing what a great student, and we're looking forward to seeing you get more awards like that. Okay. Do you want to hold that so you can show it? Yeah. Wonderful.
Go back by Michelle, and Michelle's going to give you a book. AFE.
I brought a special visitor to present.
Oh, how nice.
Rudolph the red-nosed
This is Levi Zelmer. Levi is chosen for Student of the Month because he displays excellent character attributes for a model student here at AFE. Levi is new to the district this year. He told me that he was really worried about starting a new school, not knowing anybody. Well, Levi is a great addition to my first grade classroom and to the district. Levi works productively throughout the day while he's at school. He works cooperatively with his peers during group times. He's very easy to get along with fellow teachers and classmates. Levi missed only 1 day of school this year so far. Levi comes to school with a smile on his face, homework completed, and he's ready to learn daily. Congratulations, Levi. You should be very proud of yourself.
And on behalf of the school board, we'd also like to say congratulations. Great attendance. Keep it up.
Make sure your dad's over there taking a picture. Make sure they get Go by Michelle. Michelle, give you a book. Oh. Middle school.
Mrs. Wessel is going to be presenting in.
Perfect.
My disclaimer is Alyssa Mansell gave me a starter sheet and I filled in and changed a little, so credit to Alyssa Mansell tonight. Thank you. Good evening. I'm here to introduce Ian Cole. The middle school this November recognized students that were kinder than necessary. And here are a couple of the comments that were made by Ian's teacher. Ian constantly goes out of his way to help other students and staff. He is very unselfish. He's an amazing artist. He's very determined to do his very best work on every project. He has a positive attitude and a great role model for classmates. He has the type of attitude and kindness I hope to instill in my own young children. He is nothing short of a leader by example. I'm happy to have him on my basketball team this year. He exceeds expectation and is one of the kindest players I have ever worked with. Ian is one of the very few students I know who never has to use the words "just kidding," because he's really conscious of the power of words. Ian is our Mr. Rogers because he makes our neighborhood a kinder place for everyone.
Oh.
Congratulations, Ian.
Congratulations. And kindness is one of the greatest qualities that anyone can have. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Ian,
you get started for you.
High school.
Cheyenne, she couldn't make it today.
Okay.
Her parents work second shift and they arranged for last week, but it's.
next month then?
I believe that's the plan.
Okay.
Great.
All right, so we'll have two students from the middle or high
For
school.
those that got awards, Harriet is from the paper. She'd like to meet out in the hallway so we can get a picture for the paper. And if you'd like to stay for the meeting, you may. If not, you're dismissed. We're going to wait for a second, seeing that Holly's not here for the student report. So we'll let Harriet get back in. This time, is there consideration to adjournment to closed session? Is there consideration to adjournment to closed session? Is there consideration to adjournment to closed session? Hearing none, we'll move on. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Jim and Jeff? Motion made by Jim, second by Jeff to adopt the consent agenda. On the consent agenda tonight, there's a couple co-curricular contracts. Retirement of Christy Little, paraprofessional AFE, retirement of Beverly Pichek, paraprofessional AFE. We also have recommendations, I believe, for those two positions. Is that correct, Barbie? Caitlin Cashin and Nicole Danko, along with the minutes to meetings from 11/11, finance, policy, and the regular meeting. Is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll start this vote with Kent.
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
And my vote is yes, it passes 7-0. Now we're waiting for Harry.
Here's back.
Oh, Harry's back. All right. At this time, we are moving up 7.2 to 5.0, the audit report. Required communication report, audit presentation by Sean Rowley. And there's a table right there, podium right there for you. Thank you, Sean, for coming tonight. Sorry about the meeting being canceled last week.
No,
as I was driving up today and going through the winding turns, I was pretty happy about that. Rough roads and a lot of turns. I appreciate it. It was really great to work with the district this year. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity. I know you had the other auditor for quite a few years, but from my perspective, the audit went pretty well. Ronnie had a lot. Her records were in good shape, and I thought the audit went really well overall. I will now go over this document. I think everyone received that. It's really a summary of the larger report that you also have available. I'm just going to actually do a summary of the summary to try to speed things up. I'm more than happy to go over anything in more detail. If you have questions, just let me know right away, and I'll try to answer in next for you. So we completed the audit of the financial statements. We issued an unmodified opinion. This is good, an opinion that you can receive as a district. That's a clean opinion. We also tested compliance with federal and state awards and also gave an unmodified opinion for that report as well. The programs we tested are listed: the Child Nutrition Cluster, State Special Education, Pupil Transportation Aid, General Equalization Aids, Achievement Gap Reduction, and the report was given to Ronnie for review. It was approved. Some other reports that we do are certifying your balances with the Department of Health and Construction. We certified your aid and also did a fund balance report. And in addition to the financial statements and single audit, there's the internal control document that accompanies your audit report. And that's written directly to you as the governing body, and it's supposed to provide some insight, suggestions, considerations. The next page shows a summarized financial statement for the general fund and special education fund. To me, your cash increased about 1.3 million, and that fell down to the bottom line, you could say. So your total fund balance also increased about $1 million. We'll kind of dig into the revenues and expenses a little bit later on. And at the bottom, it does talk about in total for all of your governmental funds that they increased by $1,032,108. And food service net position changed by almost 6,000, and that's really good. You don't want it, I don't think you would want a large profit in that. It means your fees are adequate. You're meeting the needs of the department. The next page shows the trend in fund balance. It had a kind of dip down a little bit in 2017, year-end 2017 and year-end 2018. But this year, with the approximately $1 million profit, it raised it back up to $4.2 million. And just one of the comments at the bottom is that the general fund balance is 21% of expenditures for the year. There isn't a formal written policy that goes over or lays out the recommended range of fund balance, but a lot of times we'll see 15 to 20%, 15 to 25%. It's nice to, I would always recommend a range, so you're not tied into one set number at a point in time. But if you're in that range, that is, I guess I would say is fairly typical. That is in a lot of policies that I see. And then the next page goes over your revenues and breaks it out in a pie chart. Largest source is taxes. It did decrease. Taxes decreased from 2018 to 2019. Your state sources are the next largest source at 38%, followed by federal sources. people aid more than offset that with just the formula. And federal fund for the improvement of education and aware grants concluded or were nearing conclusion near the end of the performance period, so that had an impact on federal revenue sources. In intermediate sources this year, there was more received from Mid-State Technical College. A program, Ronnie, I don't know if there's anything you remember from that. I know there was, I don't know if it was really related to the fiscal year or if they were catching up possibly with prior years.
They were.
Following slide shows your tax levy. That's not something I see too often, honestly. Is a trending decline. But it's impressive. I will say that. It's not something that's very common. And I think the last point that I put on here is that the 2019-2020 levy has a mill rate of 7.5, which is, other than a 2 or 3 year period of 2005 to 2007, is the lowest the mill rate's been for 36 years. That's from a DPI site. The next slide goes over a little more detail from every year for that. Which again is, I work with maybe 10 schools personally, and across the firm we do about 60. I just don't think that's too common. The following slide is federal and state revenue. This includes your food service fund. The food service fund had almost $1 million in revenue from federal sources. But you can see this is trending up as well. And the state per pupil aid was a little over $1 million, and the formula increased, this right, from 450 up to 654. So this across all districts was basically increasing by 50% or so. Right around there. Next page is the expenditure side. They were a little bit more consistent, it seemed, than the revenues. One of the changes was the QZABs that you paid off. This happened the year before, but in 2017, 2018, you paid off a little over $1 million of your bonds. And then there was a large project for business that was put in business administration, $504,000 purchase for air conditioning and the DVC control system there. I put a little disclaimer at the bottom. I think the previous auditor did a great job. I think he grouped things different in the audit report, so the comparisons on the expense side were somewhat different. I tried to follow what DPI's accounting system has, is how we approach the expense side. And I think he just grouped, that firm grouped things just a little different. The next page shows your long-term obligations. And at the start of the year, the total long-term obligations were $1,864,851. By the end of the year, it was about half of that. So your general obligation bonds and notes were down to $21,000. Your notes from this language is a little different. It's new this year, but it's banknotes, basically, are at $618,963. Then your vested employee benefits, sick or vacation leave, is at $300,000 at the end of June 30th. So your QZABs are going to be paid off soon this year. The GO notes from 2016 will be all that's left. A lot of debt limit, but schools typically don't run up to their debt limits. Municipalities might more so. Schools don't. Typically anyway. So a couple of other comments that aren't shown on that other page is you have a couple of other post-employment benefits. One is through your district's health insurance that I think it says 46 retired members are currently in that plan. It's not active anymore, but there still is a liability for those retirees, and that was at $1,428,311. And that number is established by an actuary that's hired by the district outside of the audit process. And another one is the Employee Trust Fund Life Insurance Plan. And this one's kind of, won't really dig into it too much, but being part of that plan, you have a shared liability. So your proportionate share of the entire plan is reflected on your books. So it might be under 1% of the entire plan's liability that's reflected on your records. But that number, because of the level of funding for that plan, it's at under 50% funded based on the actuarial study. That number was $419,320. It seems large considering how much you pay in premiums for life insurance, but it's just because the plan is not funded. I don't think they intend to fund it at 100%. I think they look at it as 50% might be what their goal is. But a share is reflected on your financial statements. The other larger liability is the WRS pension system. And it's similar concept. It's Employee Trust Fund as an actuary that estimates or projects out all of the future payments and distributions from the plan. You look at their plan assets and investments. And they have pretty sophisticated actuaries look at all of that, and their plan actually is extremely well funded. It's at 96.45%. It's hovered around 100%. At times it's 101% or 102%, and then you have an asset actually on your books. But this year, at that one point in time, when the markets were kind of bad, honestly, it hurt the plan's funding, because I think the stock market dipped down a year. So that plan was at 96.45% and resulted in a $2.4 million liability. Doesn't affect your DPI reporting. This is all outside of that, but it's a big part of audit reports, and it's required as a government to reflect it.
Do you ever recommend debt to get out from underneath any of those unfunded liabilities?
You do that anymore.
You can't.
With those two employee trust fund, the district's other post-employment benefit, I've not seen that issue to finance that. There are trusts that can be established to set money aside for it, but I haven't seen it funded in that yet. Any other questions about anything I've gone over so far? The next page is going to allude to, there's a second report besides the audit that I'll just kind of walk around and show everyone. It's a smaller report. This.
They're linked on our agenda.
They're all on there, so it's just that shorter report. So the two findings that we had in our audit report, this would be quite a ways down, pretty close to the end, I would think. One of they were both carried over from last year, and they are fine. One was for preparation of financial statements, and the other is for preparation of single audit schedules. And it's really an independent sort of responsibility that it's tough for any district to overcome, honestly. The standard for not having the preparation of financial statements is to basically hire another audit firm to prepare them. And I just don't know any other school that has ever, some might consider it or talk about it, but I've never seen that put into action. you have if you have an auditor that, or a CPA on staff that is independent of the audit itself, that might be another way to overcome that. But it's a significant efficiency, I believe, not raised to the level of a higher level than that. There's a material weakness would be more than that, more severe. The appropriation of single audit schedules is similar. It's just not something that most business managers do. There's so many, it's really the reports that you've got that you're seeing scroll through right here is having someone on staff prepare all of that, and it's just typically not very effective use of time for the district. The letter to the Board of Education, there's a couple of comments I just wanted to make on the significant estimates. The depreciation of capital assets that actually this year resulted in a prior period adjustment because of the amount, because of having the actuary or the appraisal company on site and doing a more thorough review. So it was material enough that we had to actually go back and restate your net position because they added so many new assets. The pension liability is really, the numbers are from the ETF actuary, so that's another sensitive estimate. If they increase or decrease their discount rate, it could fluctuate by 500,000, and that's just how sensitive the actuarial evaluation is. And we get that directly from employee trust fund. And that's the same with your other post-employment benefits. Just those actuarial evaluations are extremely sensitive to the inputs into our studies. There were no material journal entries. That's very good to see. It means the reports you receive throughout the year are accurate. The year-end close process worked. And we had no material journal entries to the financial statements. There were a few, just 4 general comments and recommendations. I don't know if they're in that report or if there's another attachment, possibly. But I'll run through them. Best I can here. Yeah, that looks cover it. Go down maybe 3 or 4 more.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had no idea.
No, that's okay. Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that, everyone. I hope I can scroll down this too. The first one is fiduciary activities, and that's just a new accounting standard for being implemented now. And I think, Ronnie, we talked about it. I think you maybe hearing more about it with through CC5 as well. It affects what's recorded in funds, what you might know as Fund 72, or student activity funds, and typically Fund 21, which is the district's activity groups. It may result in a shift of activity being moved from those agency and fiduciary type funds into the district's accounts. It really comes down to who controls the money and who's making the decisions ultimately. So a lot of what, not to get in my own way here, but a lot of what we're seeing is the elementary students' accounts getting moved into the district's accounts because they don't really make the decisions by themselves. They have a lot of oversight. And this is an accounting standard that's just for all governments, cities, villages, counties, everywhere. Next one is leases. And that's also just a notice in 2020, 2021, there's going to be a new standard for all governments where you have to reflect all leases on your financial statements. Whereas if you in the past had a copier lease, but you didn't keep that copier at the end of it, you probably just reflected it as pay as you go, this is how it is, but now you'll have to record an asset and a liability. It's just going to really beef up your balance sheet, I guess, to talk to the county. But that's something for a year and a half from now. The next one is cash and deposits. Get into that one because it's a little bit more specific. So the first point of that was just your interest income. Looking at the cash confirmation that we received from your banks, it was generally 0 to 0.2%. With the amount of cash on hand, I just recommend exploring alternative options for that amount of money. And I'll leave it at that. I know local banks are very important. I don't want to get in the way of that. So, but it was something I noticed. And your insured balances as well. There was $653,000 of uninsured. Oh, let me read it. Deposits with financial institutions were insured by FDIC, and $3,255,000 were uninsured and uncollateralized. So that's beyond FDIC insurance and beyond any collateral. The state provides $400,000 of insurance if there are funds in the state's insurance plan. I would also like to see and explore options for getting more collateral, especially when you have more cash on hand at certain times of the year. That's just an advisory thought. We look at it just at one point in time, at June 30th. Cash disbursements, procedures, and controls. This is kind of an example of maybe where there's a limited number of people, and the procedures in the past have just kind of been isolated on maybe one person. It makes sense in the role for cash disbursements to have always been done by one individual. But if there's a way to break that out and have a little more control over the process, it's something we're always looking for. One example was cash disbursements. Getting into the second paragraph of that, it's the same person opens mail, creates new vendors in the accounting system, enters invoices, prints checks, and has access to the check signature password. There are reviews in place by the business manager, and I know you all receive. You can look at invoices, you can look at disbursements as well. I think just having that much control in the process with one person is just something you kind of keep an eye on. So the thought is to break that out if at all possible.
We've changed that.
Yeah. Everyone we worked with at the district was great. Got to meet a lot of new people this year. Can't go through everybody's name, but I know two of them are sitting over there, Bartlett and Ronnie, so it was nice to work with the school. No battles. Appreciate it. Any other questions?
Board have any questions so far?
Well done.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I guess it's more for Dr. Worman. I'm assuming that we may see something, corrective actions or whatever on some of these recommendations that.
We've already had conversation about the activity accounts and what we're going to do with those. We continue to try to work through any of the recommendations that Sean has made.
So just to report back to the board itself, because he has outlined some deficiencies or concerns, I just as a board member want to see what our plan is to address those issues. I mean, that's kind of why I've asked, a presentation. I remember a year ago that I asked that we have these presentations. This is the biggest reason, is to make sure that, I've sat on boards where, these concerns didn't get addressed, and they were in reports, and those reports are being widely ignored. It was a county board, and, you know, it gives me comfort just as a board member. Okay, here's the plan, this is what we're gonna do to address the deficiencies.
Ronnie and
We're
I
done
will
for
meet-
next year.
Ronnie and I will meet and we'll provide some information about the recommendations then.
Great.
Within about 2 months. So in
Yeah.
February, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
We've already
right.
made some changes. Some of the recommendations, the activity account thing, we've known it's been on the horizon for a while. We're working on trying to address that issue. We've already changed how we handle the mail internally in this building, so more people have their hands on it. It's not just one or two
Right.
people. So we're trying to address the issues that we're outlining. But we'll provide more detail
Okay.
in formal report in February.
Okay. And I appreciate the fresh eyes. Thank you very much.
And you did this act disbursement procedure and control internally. We adjusted it with
Correct.
opening the mail.
Yep.
We didn't.
Yep, just so we have more people, more hands involved in how that, opening bills, how it's paid, who's got their hands involved, so.
It's kind of counterintuitive sometimes because some of those recommendations maybe is less efficient, take more time. So it's kind of, I don't know, there's two sides to it. But from an auditor's perspective, and if we're thinking of fraud, we don't do a fraud audit, but when we think about fraud, it's typically done because someone has too much control over one process. That's where it kind of comes from the fraud side of it. But it does make things less efficient and slower. It takes longer to do things.
Any other questions for you? Thank you for coming up tonight, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
so much.
Okay, moving on. Administrative reports, AFE.
I have just a couple things to share with you. One is, last time Dr. Ward talked about the map when we look at Grand Martian. I updated it, made it look a little bit nicer than I did before. And then on the back side is numbers per grade level.
I'll keep this copy for the.
So you can see we divided every grade level, but second grade has 4 sections. And then you can see how many would be in each classroom based on that information. So we've got obviously kindergarten right now has about 71 kids for section 17 in each classroom, roughly. It could be 17.25. So we don't have quarter of kids or anything. So I just kind of rounded.
Second grade has 4, but this shows 5.
Second grade is the only one that has 5.
5.
Everyone else has 4.
Got it.
Yeah.
And if we were to bring the students from Grand Martian, we anticipate that second grade group, which is larger than the rest, would loop with a teacher as they went through 3rd and then 4th grade at the elementary level.
Second grade has been our biggest fluctuating class right now too. So AFE just got 5 in the last 3 weeks in second grade. So yeah, it's B grade that's kind of been up and down. So I just wanted to show you a nicer map and then what the grade levels would look like. If you notice on the back there, I have 4K 26 based on a survey. I did send out a survey. It had questions as to, 1, are you going to send somebody to 4K next year? If so, are you sending them to Head Start, yes or no? Are you going to send them to AFE, yes or no? Do you need daycare? And if we went full days, would that change your mind? So of the 108 that replied, 4 said they'd be sending them to Head Start. 1 replied they'd send them to Head Start and AFE. And 26 replied they would send someone to 4K at AFE. And then daycare, of the 26 just to going to AFE, 6 of the 26 said they would need daycare, and 4 said maybe. 8 said if we went full-time, it might change their mind, and we only had 3 maybes. might change their mind if they went full-time. So the survey was open almost a month.
And it wasn't a scientific survey, and we were trying to capture current parents and some daycare providers, just to get a rough guesstimate as we have more informed conversation about potentially moving to full-day 4K.
You sent it out to 108?
We sent it out to the entire district,
Okay.
plus some daycare, that's all
And
we
then
got.
108 responded?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
with 31 of them saying yes, they're gonna send a student to 4K. Any other questions?
Mr. Starner would like to be acknowledged that he responded to the survey.
He answered one? Or were you the one that answered, you're saying them both Head Start?
Wow.
It's not.
All I can say is wow.
Any other questions?
Is there anyone from Grand Marsh?
I don't know if there is.
Okay, middle school.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I also want to say that you'll notice that all of the middle school people here are dressed in their pajamas. It's pajama day at the middle school. It's not that we wear these regularly to work. And we really do believe to help kids feel more comfortable with themselves, we participate, because then they're more likely to participate. So, please excuse the fashion statement that we have going on tonight. All right, I'd like to begin by sharing some information regarding our building level data. Since Mr. Robinson and I have been working together at the middle school as building leaders, we've been working with our middle school team to develop practices and structures that are going to promote more of a positive learning environment, which we know are going to present or promote more positive learning outcomes. Tonight, I'd like to share with you that when looking at our middle school behavioral data, from the start of the 2018 school year as compared to the start of the 2019 school year, we've seen a 38% reduction in behavioral referrals. We went from 285 to 178. Additionally, when looking at the district data, that's overall from September of 2018 to December of 2019, the middle school has been below the average referrals within the district every month except for last June. We believe, and we believe, as we talked about this within our building, this is showing shows increasing support that our culture, which is really what we do, that's not how we feel, it's what we do, is trending in a positive direction of establishing a positive learning environment. So during our last PD day, we showed the behavioral data to our staff and we asked them why they thought we were seeing such improvement. They had 4 different points of view. One, they said, this is from their point of view, we've gained more skills, which allow us to better support students on our own. 2, we've increased collaboration and communication with pupil service, admin, and SPED staff when it comes to supporting our students. 3, the structures we put in place support a more positive learning environment. By those structures, we think of web, right, our peer mentoring, how we even structure lunch. But additionally, we've really looked at a lot of data, and we know that transitions are hard for kids. So I went back actually, and I looked at the data all the way from this senior class, from when they transitioned into a middle school setting. And we noticed that when they moved into 6th grade, their data literally, as a cohort, went from here, boom, to a drop. So what we're hoping to see, and what we really believe, is that by bringing our middle school, by starting middle school in 5th grade is self-contained. So the only thing that they're really experiencing as a transition is the building itself. We're treating them as though they were when they were in the elementary, but we're acclimating them within the environment, and then we have peer mentors supporting them. Then our 6th grade, we built a house concept. So now they're only moving between 2 teachers, not 7, or we used to be a 3-by-5 schedule. They're moving between 2 teachers, which is supporting their executive functioning skills. They really struggle with organization, right? And supporting them in terms of just their 2 primary teachers. And then our 7th and 8th grade, what we've done is, and we mentioned this last year, we made it so that we're looping our curriculum. Social studies standards came out, they're new standards. Science, we adopted a new curriculum. Math, we actually run our 7th grade math and 8th grade math every single hour of the day. So if you're a student in 7th and 8th grade, or even in 5th and 6th, we can accelerate you into the proper math curriculum according to your grade level. every other content area right now is all skill-based. So we've looped that curriculum, so we've blended our kids to be 7th and 8th grade classes, which by doing so, we see mentoring and more positive behaviors happening within those classrooms. The teachers, the feedback from the teachers has been outstanding with that. And then finally, my fourth one that they stated was our lenses, which is what we call our values about students. They drive the practices and the structures that we put into place on a daily basis. So our use of restorative practices in a proactive manner, our trauma-invested lens, and then our PBIS supports are significantly contributing to the decrease. That's what our team discussed. Also, I wanted to share with you, I passed out a document with you that was sent out to families regarding the tool that's helping us monitor and identify the academic strengths and skills that our students are working on. We do know that some of our students struggle with anxiety, test-taking strategies, and test stamina, but with practice and support and knowledge of the standards and skills that are related to college and career readiness, we know that we can promote better achievement. So what's unique is when you look at this document, I just took snapshots and I sent that out to families. And that's just a general statement. That's what the general report prints out. But as teachers, we can see how every single student answered that particular question. So then we start to break down the strands. And then we can be very individualized about our instruction because we see where students are truly struggling in their learning. Okay? So we're teaching teachers to be more intentional about their practice that way. All right? And this assessment tool is aligned with the ACT test, which is college and career readiness. All right, last thing I want to say is that tomorrow night is a middle school band concert, so if you're looking for some entertainment, the students are very thrilled because they have a very talented musician that's going to be joining them as well, so you'll have to show up to see who that is. They're very excited about that. And then on Friday, we're doing our annual Christmas caroling. So at 7:15, if you'd like to join us where we greet our students and we sing, we would welcome you. It's a lot of fun. So thank you very much. Unless you have any questions, I'm sorry.
High school.
Kathy, you have a question?
That's okay.
You have a question? Go ahead.
I
didn't
did.
see you.
We were talking about looping. Are we still recognizing, the gifted and talented section as well as obviously those who need additional help?
Absolutely. So students still will receive remediation supports, and then there's also enrichment, certainly.
Okay.
Or acceleration, if that's
That's right. I was wondering, it's looping. And second of all.
So but it's looping, I want to just clarify, it's looping 7th and 8th, so we identify, social studies just introduced a new curriculum. So those are the standards and skills. They're not identified by grade. So what we've done is a curriculum map that we're saying we're teaching these standards and skills in the A year and these standards and skills in the B year. Okay? So it's not associated to a grade level anymore. The math curriculum we have is by grade level. But that's the only one right now. Okay?
And when you surveyed staff, I don't know if you did it formally or whatever, are they feeling very good about this reduction? Because they're,
Ask them.
with the last couple of years, there have been like, we're not getting enough support, or, they're not doing anything about discipline, da 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 da. So I was wondering, is there more, you feel more of a buy-in that, they're seeing the reduction of behavior and feeling that.
Two of them are here, I don't know. You want to speak off the cuff here?
I feel like I'm able to handle all of this when I need to in my own classroom, and then I trust that they have my back. So if I say, hey, here's what I think, here's what happened, here's how I think it's going to happen, I know if I go to Chris, he's going to honor exactly what I say. So I don't even have to pull the hey, I'm going to call Mr. Robinson card, because my students know that if I call him, he's got my back no matter what. So I work with the two best principals I've got. It's awesome.
We didn't pay her to speak.
We should, though.
So the four statements that I shared, that came from our meeting, because we had to break up into pods and explain to us, why do you think we're seeing such a significant decrease? Because 38% is significant, right? Even if there's a standard of deviation and somebody says, I didn't write anything up, or I didn't do this, that you're not going to have that high of a change. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there any other questions for Michelle? High school.
Kevin can't be here because we have our band concert tonight. So they're at the band concert. We had a choir concert that was really good last Thursday. Very highly attended. Last time when we gave the report, we were talking about our upcoming service days organized by the kids of the FFA. That was a great success. Our juniors took a practice ACT test while that was going on, and everybody else in the school signed up to do projects in the school or outside of the school. I was a little bit worried we were going to have behavior issues for kids outside of the school, so I was ready to go, and we had none of those. We had kids out in the community, doing some really good things, promoting the school and putting a good foot forward for them and kind of showing them a little bit of their civic duty and kind of to be, this is what it's like to give back. And that was all run by the FFA. That was not teacher-led. There was students that organized that and really ran that. And afterward, they sent out a document kind of asking for suggestions, looking to improve that, the ways that could go forward with that. I thought it was a great day. Currently, all our juniors are taking an ACT prep class. That's a class run, our CCP class. It's run by an English teacher who's teaching one, a science teacher, and I believe there's a math teacher teaching a course as well. And they all collaborate to come together at least once a week. So they are getting the ACT prep during the second trimester before we take that. And today, our freshmen and sophomores took their Aspire intern testing in their core classes to hopefully boost some of those scores going forward.
Questions?
Do all juniors take the ACT prep?
Yes?
Okay, thank you. And
Thank
there's
you.
no fee for it, right?
No, it's a class run in the high school.
Okay.
Thank you. Laura's not here. Barbie?
This last week, I was able to go to a two-day conference in Appleton to see Ross Green speak regarding behaviors. And the premise behind that is all behaviors are lagging skills or unsolved problems, and then how we as adults address that behavior or lagging skill or unsolved problem. It was very insightful, and a number of us have done a book study regarding his work, but after the training, we have decided to invest some of our PD money into sending some more administrators and pupil services, and we're going to try to incorporate his practices into our building level review teams when we have a student who is having some concerns. So I'm thinking that is something we'll see probably more changes next school year, but I can see a shift in our mindset hopefully in this school year.
Question? Thank you. Tom?
All right, a few things going on. We have a meeting with the teacher retention group on Wednesday night. Ronnie and I will be talking with teachers about ways, strategies to try to stop the number of people that we've had leaving our district over the last few years. I've started writing what I hope to be a weekly article in the newspaper that came out today, and I've got more in the hopper that, again, we'll try to send to the newspaper on a weekly basis, talking about district-related activities. We've scheduled 2 meetings that we're going to start publicizing to discuss the future of Grand Marsh Elementary School with the public. They will be on Monday, January 20th and Tuesday, January 21st. On Monday the 20th, the meeting will be at Grand Marsh Elementary School at 6 p.m. And on Tuesday the 21st, the meeting will be at AFE at 6 p.m. So we're hoping that people attend that, have an opportunity to look at our enrollment data, look at if we were to vacate Grand Marsh, what we would be able to do to accommodate those students at AFE and move forward. We'll be sending a notice to the facilities study group. We have 20 plus people identified in that group, and we tentatively selected 4 dates, January through April, to have conversation with that group. And I had the opportunity to meet with Assemblyperson Joan Ballwig today. She came to my office. We had a nice one-sided conversation, and I hope she plans on coming back.
And I'm assuming you know who the one-sided is?
I have no idea. No, we had a really good conversation. Obviously, school funding was the topic we spoke about for the hour that she was here. Most of the districts that are in her assembly, most of the school districts in her assembly district are similar to Adams Friendship. They're experiencing a decline in enrollment, and it's difficult to plan for the financial future if you're in a declining enrollment situation right now based on the current funding formula. So we had a very good conversation. I was very glad that she came to visit, and it was a very good conversation.
That's good. Because I was at a town hall with her, and she knew very little about Adams Friendship. So I made sure she had information that she could contact our superintendent. She's much more involved in other areas. So it was, but we only had maybe 15 people at the town hall, and I represented the educational aspects. They all had different roles and different aspects. So I'm glad to see she came.
No, we had a really good meeting, and again, I think she probably got more of my view of school finance than she was anticipating, but we're in a precarious situation right now, and I feel it's my role to make sure that our elected officials are informed about where we're at.
Any questions for Tom? Moving on, policy, Lynn.
On behalf of the policy committee, I'd like to make the motion to send the following policies into policy. 1130, 3230, and 4230 conflict of interest. And the following policies will go into second reading.
No, we'll just stop at that first. We'll stop with the second readings first. Is there a second?
Second.
Kathy? Motion made by Lana, second by Kathy to adopt 1130, 3230, and 4230 conflict of interest to policy. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll start this vote. Jim?
Yes.
Lana?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
My vote is yes, it passes 7-0. Now,
All right. And move to move the following policies into second reading. 1400 job descriptions, 2420 education for employment, 3120 employment of professional staff. That one needs to be changed on the writing. 5113 open enrollment program, 5114 non-immigrant students and visitor programs, 5341 emergency medical authorization, 5501 high school yearbook senior portrait guidelines, 5512 use of tobacco and nicotine by students, 5517 student anti-harassment, 5610 suspension and expulsion, 6150 tuition and income, 6220 budget preparation, 6235 fund balance, 6440 cooperative purchasing, 6520 payroll deductions, 8330 student records, 9130 public requests, suggestions, or complaints, and 9150 school visitors.
those are all first readings. Second readings will be for a motion next month. A lot of people know that you don't have to always have us first and second reading. We choose to so we can have public comment if one so desires. So as far as I'm concerned, we'll continue doing first and second readings. Anything else, Glenn?
No.
Thank you. Finance, Joanne.
Okay, Finance Committee met at 6:30. And on behalf of the Finance Committee, I move to approve general fund checks numbered 81776 through 81941 and ACH checks numbered 2000094 through 2000117 and 2633 through 2655, totaling $1,203,913.25. and activity fund checks number 20866 through 30886, and ACH check number 1134, totaling $18,045.08 for the month of November.
I will second that.
Jim? Motion made by Joanne, second by Jim to approve general fund checks number 81776 through 81941 and ACH checks number 2000094 through 2000117 and 2633 through 2655, totaling $1,203,913.25. Activity fund checks number 30866 through 30886, and ACH check number 1134 totaling $18,045.08 for the month of November. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll start this vote with Lena,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
My vote is yes, passes 7-0. Moving on, old business. Review most recent contracts submitted by
Cobeson Buses Ltd. And Kevin Cole, Ronnie Vanderheiden, and I have had multiple telephone conferences and email conferences with Joe Cobeson, the owner of Cobeson Buses, and we are comfortable with every point in this contract, but would like to draw your attention to 7D. 7D is really the only sticking point that we still have, we still don't feel is in our district's best interest. And I'd like to read that. The current contract is based on, mine says 170, it should say up to 179 days of transportation. If the district has less than 174 days, the district will be invoiced at 50% of the daily base rate per bus per day charge for the difference in days. This includes years when the weather comes into play. As some of you know, I believe I mentioned this before, based on the number of snow days that the busing contractors across the state of Wisconsin experienced last year, Mr. Cobeson asked for us to provide him with a check to reimburse some of those days this year. We did not elect to do that based on our existing contract. The over-under for our district on snow days appears to be between 5 and 6 days. I believe that we're going to end up with 178 instructional days next year. Currently we have 176. We'll be talking about the calendar in a few minutes. So there's a relatively high likelihood that we would end up, if we had 178 days of instruction, we would end up paying 50% of the daily bus rates for 1 to 3 days on an annual basis, which comes out to a daily rate.
It ends up being, our daily rate is $5,638, and so it would be half of that at $2,820, somewhere in there, which doesn't seem like a lot, but then payments are awesome.
So what my recommendation is, and we were close to all being in consensus.
We are.
We'd end up potentially, let's say if it's 3 days, is the daily rate 5,600 or half of the daily rate?
No.
So let's just round it up. So if we if we have 3 additional snow days, which could easily happen beyond the 174-day minimum, we'd end up spending an additional $9,000 for buses that aren't running. The question to the board tonight, because we'd like to either approve this contract or go out to bid, is that $9,000 to $12,000 or whatever it might be worth going out to bid and introducing another contractor for our transportation services? I would say no. That's me personally talking, and I don't know where you are at.
I would say no. So.
We've had a lot of good conversations about this. There's school districts that are close to us that started the school year with the new busing contractor and ended up having to cancel days the first week of school because they were in such a mess. We're very pleased with the service that we received from Cobeson, but really felt that Mr. Cobeson could have worked with us a little bit more on this point.
Yeah.
When you look at other bus services, don't they all have a clause like this anyway?
This is relatively new after last year.
Okay, because I just wondered, is it counterproductive to even look at a different bus service if they all are looking at, this is Wisconsin and we're having a lot of cancellations, and so they're all sliding this into contractual agreements?
We had contracts from some other school districts, and I feel that we're still in a good position with this contract. I think you're going to see more and more language like this in these contracts, just because last year was so tough on these third-party contractors. You know, most districts across the state of Wisconsin had 11 to 13 snow days last year, and only made a fraction of those up. And they're budgeting like we are.
Go ahead.
So we budget for that anyway, right? 178 days of student contact. So it's not like we're losing any money because we've already budgeted that money. It's just the sticking point is we're not running it and we're still paying it. So I understand that, but it is in the budget for those amount of days.
Absolutely.
And I understand the vendor's point of view as well, because he has to run a business based on his budget, which is budgeted for 178 days of student contact. So my feelings are we should stay, if you worked out the rest of those sticking points, which there were several that we went through, that my opinion is to stay with Cobeson.
And this will be an overall increase from our existing contract. We had a very district-friendly contract the first 5 years that we've been served by Cobeson. I would say this is not as district-friendly, just so you're aware.
Is there a motion? Go ahead, you can ask a question first.
So, number 8, drivers, bus aides, and dispatchers.
What page is that?
Oh,
right below that, okay.
So, my question to you, in reading this contract, I guess my concern is, number 1, I don't see anything in the contract that specifically says they have to pass a background test, like we do for volunteers in the district. I don't see that spelled out in the contract. And they're going to be around our kids, and I'm afraid of the liability of that because we don't require them in the contract, even though I don't know what Cobeson's practice is. But number 2 is they provide us with abstract records upon request. It's not an automatic thing. We have to ask the question. I want this person's record kind of thing. Why wouldn't you automatically give us that information? Why do we have to request it? Especially twice a year, if we want to know about somebody's driving record, if they had a DUI or, their MVR is bad, maybe even a criminal, again, back to the backgrounds, we don't even know if they have a criminal background or not, and something that may put our kids in jeopardy. I don't know. That's not addressed in this contract. While I understand that they are independent contractors, we can still, in my mind, I think we can still maintain that relationship, but have standards for them to be an independent contractor for us. We're not controlling that employee per se. Cobeson is. But they have to meet our standards, and that's not really spelled out here. The other issue, and I know I've brought this up a couple times, GPS. and doing a cost sharing or something, because I don't know, maybe we have climate change, I don't know. The verdict's still out on that. And it just, I'm telling you, just from a personal standpoint of being in a district that had those things, that was a very large district, not as big as ours, but still a very large district, it was a nice convenience to have as a parent and a peace of mind that I'm not sitting out there for a half an hour wondering where the heck the bus is. And then as a parent going through my mind, okay, is it in a ditch? Was it in an accident? What's going on? And going through that checklist. Or they got dropped off at the aunt's house and then nobody told me.
The GPS and wireless, we had conversations about both, and they really would be a district expense.
Okay, and that's not, yeah.
And you know, it's something that I think would be really beneficial, but
right. It's an added
it's
expense.
a trade-off.
Right.
Go ahead, George.
I just looked at Cobuson's site, and it says our drivers must pass a criminal background check and motor vehicle record review as part of an extensive application and annual training process.
But we don't require that in our contract. They can change it on their part anytime they want, and we don't know how extensive that background check is. Plus, we don't get a report.
In the contract, it does say they have to have a valid Wisconsin ID for 3 years. So that is in the contract, but I understand what you're saying. Nowhere was there language about a background check.
Could we approve this and then ask them to do an addendum to what we want for a background check for these guys?
Because I also looked at number 17 about shall defend, indemnify, and hold harmless the district and its employees from and against all suits, actions, legal procedures.
Right.
So I thought that sort of
Well, there's no
covered
harmless
us
in
for-
identification language.
correct,
And-
but I thought that sort
yeah.
of covered us for your issues that you were, you know, raising a little bit about if anything should happen, that we would be held harmless according to the contract. I'm just reading it.
I think we don't want to be held harmless. We don't want it to happen.
Correct, I get that.
And just to piggyback on it, you know, specifying what we want in a there's different types of background checks. I guess the other thing is too, in knowing, and I don't know how they handle drug testing, if we get notified if somebody pees positive or whatever, you know, again, do we have to ask that question or do they automatically notify us, you know, I got a positive on a driver, this is the course of action, we're sending him for a second test because it could be a false positive, but in the meantime, they're taking off routes, just to give us a peace of mind that they're proactively handling that. You know, I don't know. It just seems like we have to ask a lot. We shouldn't ask for anything because we're paying the bill.
So you suggest that we pass this and then you can ask those questions?
I'd like to move forward. I don't think any of those things will be an issue for him. I mean, the
Yeah.
conversations, these contracts, we had a number of them, they're all relatively boilerplate, not just from Cobuson, but from other companies as well. But I don't think there would be any, I don't believe there will be any issues with those requests, those change language requests.
So why don't we get a motion tonight, and if we approve this contract, then we'll put it back on the agenda for next month with those answers, Jeff.
Thank you.
Anything over here?
May I make a
motion.
motion that we approve the contract submitted by Cobuson Buses Ltd.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Lena? Motion made by Kathy, second by Lena, to approve the contract submitted by Cobuson Buses Ltd. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll start this with Kathy.
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Lena?
Yes.
My vote is yes, passes 7-0. New business, middle school capstone project.
to share more about our middle school capstone project. We know Mr. Robinson, obviously, but the two lovely ladies that we have here. Alyssa Mansell, she's a 7th and 8th grade teacher for math at the middle school, and then Alyssa DeClean is a social worker at the middle school. And both of them are members of our school improvement team as well. Earlier you heard me mention lenses, practices, and structures, and that's a motto that we abide by at the middle school. And this really means that we're very intentional about identifying the why behind what we do. So before we get into the capstone elements, I want to briefly outline our building long-term outcomes listed in our middle school strategic plan. So our vision is that we create a learning community where we have 5 different statements. All students will feel safe and connected within a school community, so that all students will develop positive self-esteem, so that all students will be enabled to explore their interests that promote career and college readiness, so that all students will develop passion and purpose, so that they all can reach high levels of achievement. So our vision is to support a learning community where increased student engagement and a positive culture of learning makes high achievement possible for all students. So this capstone, it came to fruition and it was designed to support students in making an authentic connection between what we value and our daily practices. Each of the identified goals in our capstone support our long-term outcomes for our students, and Mr. Robinson is going to explain the first element, or we refer to them as flags of achievement for our capstone, and that's going to be school involvement.
So we talk about school involvement quite a bit, and we always discuss how research indicates that the more kids are involved in their school and connected to the school, the better their outcomes are both academically, socially, and within the larger community. There's a behaviorist that talks about your students will grow up with living within 7 miles of your community. So we want to try to get them connected at a young age. This flag directly supports the attribute outlined in the vision Michelle shared regarding developing student passions and purpose so that all students will reach high levels of achievement. This flag requires that students must be involved in at least one extracurricular activity and or complete 12 volunteer hours at the middle school. You heard a little bit of that came about with our student of the month, Mr. Ian Cole, and how he's really seeking out places that he can help volunteer in the school. So talking about workforce readiness is Ms. DeClean.
All right, so workforce readiness is kind of happening throughout the year. As we know, success is truly measured by our overall readiness by the time our students graduate high school. To prepare our students for the future, our students are exposed to a number of soft skills workshops, presentations throughout the school year. This actually started about 3 weeks ago. We had our students, our 8th grade students, take a field trip over to Mid-State and tour the Job Center. In this, students were able to explore the center, get information about how they can utilize the center, as well as what kind of skills might be necessary for them to be effective in the working field. Looking forward, we have a lot of different opportunities. So on January 24th, our students will be going back over to Mid-State. They will be participating in a soft skills presentation, which will give them the opportunity to learn the specific skills that they have, what might be their strengths, where might their areas of growth be. Then we look forward to February, March. That will be the students' time to kind of prepare mock job applications. They'll start looking at the cover letter, how do you write a cover letter, what is a cover letter, how to start putting different things into their resume, which will then transfer to the end of March. At the end of March, we're hoping to have all of our 8th grade students participate in a mock interview with community members such as yourselves. And this will give the students the opportunity just to get that practice of interviewing, what it's like, what kind of questions will be asked. And then in April, we are also hoping to get the students involved in different opportunities to practice these soft skills. So we're working with 2 different local agencies, Buc-ee's and the ADRC, to get them both dining and serving experiences as well. Flag 2, and we will be going on to Flag 3.
All right, so academic progress, Dr. Wormuth is going to be talking about what most people think of when they think of achievement, and that's truly what they measure it solely on academic testing and results. So middle school students specifically, they need to see the relevance in what it is that they're learning today as to prepare them for the future. So this flag is designed to help them kind of keep that at the forefront of what it is that they're thinking about. So with the support of their teachers, our students are going to monitor their progress academically, and then they're going to set goals to improve and maintain high levels of achievement if they're already there. So we are helping students monitor their skills with our ACT interim, Aspire feedback, and our classroom progress. Now, if students find themselves not making expected levels of growth on their ACT interim benchmarking or within their coursework, those individuals would be required to write and maintain an academic growth plan. That's within the folder that you actually just received, okay? And students are also doing reflections for each one of these flags. And I don't know if this was clear at the beginning, and I'm just listening to us talk. There's elements of this happening within 5th, 6th, and 7th, but the culmination is really with 8th grade. So what you're hearing about tonight is the focus for our 8th grade. Although much of it's been embedded in our homeroom curriculum now for the 5th, 6th, and 7th, okay? Flag 4, Ms. Mansell is going to present Flag 4 on community involvement.
So we think it's important that our students recognize that the AF community is where they are right now, so we want them to make a difference there. Michelle mentioned earlier how our strategic plan at the middle school promotes a positive self-esteem for the students. We want to help the students understand that naturally the more we give, the happier we feel. So in this flag, students are going to be doing good for others and their community, which will help them provide a natural sense of their accomplishment. By encouraging them to volunteer, we hope to see their sense of pride and identity emerge, which connects to our overall vision of developing their positive self-esteem. In this flag, students are expected to contribute to making Adams Friendship a better place by completing at least 12 community service volunteer hours. This has been really cool because our student of the month, Ian Cole, was in a win for himself, and he actually reached out to me to ask if he could come into one of my math classes to tutor. So by doing that, he earned volunteer hours for his capstone. Without the capstone, we wonder if these kids would be thinking about what they can do. So it was really cool to see him reach out on his own to help other students in our school.
Flag 5 is student wellness and soft skills for success. Soft skills or employability skills. One of the neat things that has come about this in working with Derek Smith from the Adams County Economic Development is he has stressed it to us in a lot of our meetings about this, the importance of these soft skills or employability skills and how the lack of them in the community is what is inhibiting people from getting jobs. Cell phones, showing up on time, just being generally respectful. So we've been trying to stress that with a lot of our kids is to be able to get jobs and keep jobs. Here's what it is. It's harder at the level of the middle school brain to connect, but we keep trying over and over. So we also understand that student wellness is a focus, not only in our district, but in the state and even at the national level as well. The federal government was here talking about student wellness 2 summers ago. During the middle school years, we recognize that challenges that kids face are often heightened simply by their age, their brain development, we call it pruning. Brain is starting to connect to the synapse or the neurons. Social development and physical development. How many of you have forgotten what it's like to be a child in this stage of life? Some of us willingly forgetting that stage of our life because it is often the most challenging. In fact, many people go into education with the intention of never working in the middle school level. We hear that oftentimes from our employees that we've been able to convince to be working in our building, and when they see the positivity that some of the middle school kids bring, that it's a great time. We recognize that the elements of Flag 5 are designed to support their growth. So students have received less than 4 major incident reports. We talked about some of that behavioral data previously. Missed less than 5 days of school, so they're attending school just like they should attend that work. Through the end of the second trimester, and less than 9 tardies. have at least one adult in the building who feel comfortable with talking when they need support, helping them advocate for themselves and process any situation, whether it's positive or negative. While we understand this is not attainable for every student, just like in Flag 3, there's also improvement plans for all these components as well. So we want to try to get to the end goal of the kids realizing these are important skills. So next would be Ms. Mansell on preparedness.
So the final flag is the capstone project in itself. And this is really for the students to show us their interpretation of the previous 5 flags. We want them to think outside of the box and present to us how it made them feel to do each of these things. And if it made them a better person or what they really liked about it, something that they did to step outside of their comfort zone. Students will create some type of presentation. They get to decide how this looks. And it'll be presented at a gallery night, which we hope to have at the Fine Arts Center in May. And students will personally invite guests and hopefully their teachers to come see what they've done and give them a minute of fame. This is what I did, I'm proud of this. The question we really want them to answer is, what did you do to make AFMS a better place? And eventually, bigger picture, we want to turn this into not just middle school, but what did you do to promote AF? This is your home. After all of these flags are completed, I'm sure you're wondering how we're going to celebrate the their middle school work. So each element of achievement has been labeled as a flag. And upon completion of all 6 of these flags, students will celebrate by traveling to Six Flags Great America.
So we've had a number of community partners that are been involved, and then you heard Derek Smith sits on our committee, so he attends our meetings under subcommittee meetings, and what he has offered us is not only his expertise in this area, but also the ability to connect with others. So it's kind of like his fingers, obviously, in a role like that, go out and start connecting us more and more and more. So that's just the beginning. As well as Mid-State Technical College has been a great partner with some of the resume writing and visiting the job center over there the other day. So it's really great that it's right across the street from us. So it's a great partner to have that we'll look forward to bigger things in the future.
Our 6th graders just visited them 2 weeks ago to explore careers. So lots of great opportunities with them. Any questions?
I have 2 questions and a comment. When you talk about volunteer hours, well, first of all, you don't know, but I was at-risk coordinator for many years, and my students, part of my capstone for them to exit my program was volunteering as well, and it was very difficult because they weren't seeking it. And so, do you give your more reluctant students help in finding their volunteer hours? Because, our young man that was Student of the Month is very self-directed, and you can just tell. But the students I dealt with, a lot of hand-holding, saying, because they were reluctant to approach community members. So actually, our 8th graders go over to the high school every morning for an Explore rotation, and sometimes our schedules don't align and they can't go over there. During that time, we have to keep them over at the middle school, and we've tried to embed volunteering with the 5th and 6th graders. So that gives them the forceful opportunity, hey, I'm giving you an hour, go. And we've been really surprised at which kids are really enjoying doing that. They like to go up there. Some of them are absolutely terrified. You have an 8th grader, they're like, I'm scared of the 5th graders.
When they have to read to them.
But it's fun to see, those are the more here, we're giving this to you. We were very clear with the holiday dinner, here are some hours that you could have. We've been drawing pictures in their binder. This whole capstone is outlined in a 3-ring binder for them with dividers. We have them super organized. The kids have a list of different opportunities that they can have. And then working with their homeroom teachers, the teachers can kind of track, hey, I'm noticing you're not really getting your volunteer hours in. What can we do? And it becomes, yes, it's for the kids, but the teachers are kind of responsible too to help those students achieve the flags.
Oh, that's perfect. That flag about wellness, do you also talk about health within that wellness? Because, well, we know our county has an issue with health issues,
You know, I've been in a lot of different school districts, and when we talk about our scheduling quite a bit, I often say, well, you know, in other school districts, they wouldn't have health and FIAD quite as often. And just as bringing up kind of a counterpoint, just to make sure we think it all the way through, and I always get back from the whole team is, yes, but we need it more. So we focus on that quite a bit in our building in general, you know, but that's just one example. And we focus on that mental wellness, especially in our building. I think we do a great job with it. So without a doubt, it's in the forefront of our mind.
Particularly our homeroom curriculum. If you were to read our vision statement of what our homeroom is designed to do, that is specifically designed for wellness. And then also our 6th grade is participating in that TOPS grant. So right now they're getting a wonderful opportunity to do that as well. And then when we were meeting with MSTC, they were going to, when they do a soft skills lesson, particularly one of the elements they're going to focus on is your wellness. How do you take care of yourself so that you can, you know, go to work and do what it is that you need to do, that life-work balance. You know, I can't stay up and play my video game until 2 in the morning because I'm not really going to be very effective at work. You know, those are things that they need to start thinking about, right? And it's meaningful now when we say we need to have our cell phones put away. Oh, all right.
And my third comment is, I love the idea of a capstone. I think it's excellent. I would hope that our high school also starts to perhaps think about it. I've been to the capstone for Spectrum, and that is it's powerful to have these students show their work for the year, and make sure you invite the board, because I just enjoyed talking so much with the Spectra students that finished their capstone, but would love to see the high school also.
Kenny, I have to say, so my brain got, my wheels started turning last year when Crystal and I went over we were judges for the capstone projects for TEMA. So that's when I started thinking about that, because we really struggle with middle school kids understanding what they're doing and how it's relevant to the future.
We get a lot of our middle school kids, and I heard from 2 freshmen just a couple days ago. Well, I'm trying now because middle school doesn't matter. You know,
right?
So that's unfortunately
Your grades
battle
don't
that.
matter. That's how they think about it. And also, we've had a lot of positive feedback about the athletic code. And you should see the number of students who are engaged. So 1, they're going out for things because that's a flag they need in order to be involved. And 2, they want to stay involved, so they're making sure that they're meeting their academic expectations. So that's been a big positive step in the right direction. So I thank you for supporting that.
And how do you pay for the trip?
Well, we were talking about activity account is part of it, our student activity account when we fundraise. Derek Smith had budgeted, I think $2,000 to support us in this through the county, the economic development team. And then Crystal and I were working on a grant just recently that we're submitting. It's due in January. So, thank you.
I have a couple comments. Flag 5 I talked about back in May when I just got back from the national conference, because soft skills, I heard from the human resources, was a keynote speaker at that conference, and he was saying that as a human resource person, the soft skills nowadays are so terrible that he thought that the high schools and the middle schools need to start focusing on soft skills. So I'm really glad to see Flag 5 in there. The second thing I'll comment on is volunteer log. I sit on the scholarship committee, and we talk about volunteer hours all the time and comparables, and just to have somebody be able to log how their volunteer hours work and actually write down a time. I mean, one problem we have on the scholarship committee is, how do you compare somebody who teaches Sunday school every week of the year, and somebody goes to like the senior dinner for an hour? How can we compare them as equal? Because it's one event. So I love the idea of a volunteer log and the hours associated with it. I think that'll help them when they get to their next step in high school. And what was the other thing I had? But that's where I'm at with this stuff. This is great stuff. Oh, I don't love, the other thing is I sit on the regional, Central Wisconsin Regional Workforce Development, and they actually fund the job services here. And they've seen a spike in people using job service based on these kids coming over, and I'm assuming they're telling their parents that this is where job service is, this is where jobs are located, and so the Central Wisconsin, that board was like, wow, that's a really neat thing to do. So you don't realize it at your level that that's happening, but I see it at the county level that that's happening, and I think it's great. So thank you. Go ahead, Jeff.
So where is all this, I mean, is everything stored in like a binder, or is it electronic, or is it something that they can, carry from 6th to 8th grade? How does that work?
So they'll start it in 7th grade. 5th and 6th grade, the components are really just between the teachers and the students. In 7th grade, they'll start a 3-ring binder that has 6 dividers in it, one for each flag, and behind each divider, they're supposed to put their little artifacts in it. We'll hole punch it for them. They move from 7th grade to 8th grade. They either add, change, or just stick behind it. So an example for the academic progress, we just got our first round of ACT Aspire scores. So we printed that I did for my homeroom, right? And then I put it behind they put it behind each of their dividers. So now next time we take the ACT Aspire test, they'll be like, okay, here's where I was at in November. Here's where I'm at in April. And we'll add the end of the year one, even though the capstone will be over there. They'll get to take it home. They can use it for their presentation, whatever component they choose to focus on. And then that's their pride and joy. This is what I did in middle school. So hopefully they take it home and they put it on a shelf and look back on it 10 years later and say, holy cow, I was a really cool kid in 8th grade.
I'm going to chime in as far as the volunteer hours. I can tell you that was a conversation between myself and my junior in getting his volunteer hours in. It's, it's building a resume, and I applaud you for starting it out in middle school, because I can tell you, having 2 kids already come through the system, so to speak, and a third one who's not to the same level, at least as his first brother, it's frustrating, trying to get those volunteer hours and understanding the importance of building that resume if you want to go to school, or even just getting a job, a good job, and learning those soft skills and all of that. So I really would like to see the high school dovetail into what the middle school is doing.
So 14-year-olds can get a job, right? So that's part of this, is they really do have a lot of skills when they come out. They just don't know how to articulate them and put them down to make them more employable or attractive to employees. So.
And I also, I'm a coalition member for Faith in Action, and our biggest obstacle is volunteerism. I mean, it's a wonderful organization that gives help to the elderly and disabled, and we have them recognized, but we have a waiting list because we don't have enough volunteers to match it. So, I mean, that is a perfect, if you plant that seed, perhaps as adults, they'll carry it.
We really want them to reflect on it too. So each flag has a reflection, so we know that it's measured. And the whole purpose of that is for them to say, when I did this, I felt like this. Because you don't get those opportunities to feel good about it if you don't do it. So like you said, planting the seed and giving them different opportunities to put themselves out there.
And I was going to kind of counteract that too. I'm thinking back to, although I was technically adult, I kind of put myself out there and decided to volunteer for Boys and Girls Club, and that's kind of what got me into my role as a social worker. So it's making our students think about those little things that can end up being a bigger thing.
Your passion.
Any comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Review of district report card.
In the board packet, there's a copy of just the overall district report card. And we've talked administratively about sharing all the report cards at once and spreading it out. And what I really wanted to do after setting the agenda with Rick is just talk about the overall district report card, because that's
to me. I've never been happy when we start comparing buildings, because I really think of the report card score as a whole. And buildings will go up and down and fluctuate on an annual basis. So unless you're looking at multi-year data, the district report card is where I like to at least start the conversation. So I just want to point out a few things on this year's district report card. A few positives and a few things that we know we need to work on administratively. The first is that we're in the meets expectations. We're in the third tier, which is good. Historically, the last 4 or 5 years we've been in the meets few expectations tier. And so we're making slight progress on the overall score. If you follow that column down, the district information, you get an idea of how large our district is. That's head count, that's not the third Friday count number. The mobility factor, we have very little mobility within our district, but quite a bit of mobility in and out of our district on an annual basis. We're not a particularly ethnically diverse school district, with 87% of our population being Caucasian. And we have really high percentages compared to most school districts in the state of students with disabilities. I think the state average is around 14%, Barbie, is that correct? We have 23.6% of our students that are identified with a disability having an IEP. We have 67, almost 68% of our students defined as economically disadvantaged, which is basically on free or reduced price lunch. And we have a low level of English language learners. And those student groups come into play when you talk about how that district report card score is calculated. So if you go up to the next column, the right-hand side, you'll see student achievement. This is an area of concern. You'll see that our student achievement score is at 44.8%, or 44.8 out of 100 across the district, and the state average is at 62.3. Student achievement measures the level of knowledge and skills among students in the school compared to state and national averages and standards. So we know that our academic achievement is an area where we need to improve. We're a little bit better on district growth than we are on student achievement. District growth describes how much student knowledge of reading and mathematics in the school. The district changes from year to year. The focus, all improvement is treated as positive, and schools with high performance and little room to grow aren't penalized. So we're doing okay as we think about how our students are gaining from year to year. We do really well on closing the gaps. So if you look at English language, in closing the gaps is defined, shows the performance of student groups experiencing statewide gaps in achievement and graduation and how those groups are improving in the school. It recognizes the importance of having all students improve while focusing on the need to close gaps by lifting lower performing groups, specific race and ethnic groups, students with disabilities, economically disadvantaged students, and English language learners are growing compared to their other complementary groups. So we do well, better than the state average on closing the gaps, and we're about at the state average regarding on-track to post-secondary readiness, which indicates the success of students in the school in achieving educational milestones that predict post-secondary success. We do very, very well, particularly with graduation rate. We graduate almost every student that enters our doors, which is a real positive in that area. You can see how those are weighted for the district report card score. Student achievement is 5% of the report card. District growth is 45%. That helps us. Closing the gaps is 25%. That helps us. And on track to post-secondary readiness is 25%, which helps us. And student engagement indicators, we have no deductions. We have relatively low absenteeism rate and a relatively low dropout rate compared to the state average, so that's positive as well. And we test almost all of our students. So that's kind of a really broad overview. Next month, I'd like to look at two of our 4 buildings, and then the following month, look at 2 more, as well as the ACT scores, so that we're talking about this. We're looking at data within the report card score. I know that Barbie and Laura have gone to some meetings that are run by CISA 5 on digging deeper, and we're taking that information to our building meetings. So we have some conversations about what we can do to continue to improve. But my area of concern, which has been my area of concern since I arrived here, has been starting with curriculum and just ensuring that our students are engaged with research-based, standards-aligned curriculum from kindergarten through 5th grade in the 4 content areas. So reading, language arts, math, science, and social studies, that our curriculum is the best possible that we can afford.
Questions, comments? With that, we'll go on to AFE and Grand Marsh community meetings.
I mentioned that earlier. Those meetings have been scheduled for January 20th and January 21st. Hopefully we get good turnout at those meetings. The 20th, Monday, will be in Grand Marsh at 6 p.m. The 21st, Tuesday, will be at AFE at 6 p.m. And hopefully we have a good conversation around that, the topic of what's next with Grand Marsh.
This is the 21st, so that's our state convention, right?
Tuesday the 21st, I don't believe I'm leaving until
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
All right.
Is that room, we have rooms even scheduled?
Not for Tuesday.
We don't have any rooms scheduled.
Go ahead, Jeff.
You're going to post those meetings so that there may be a majority of the board?
We can post them as a board meeting, then we'd have to start them as a board
No,
meeting.
we'll just post it that we be attend.
Oh, okay.
Right, there may be a majority of the board. Yes.
And we'll, of course, take no actions.
Right.
Anything else on that, Tom?
No.
Going on, 9.4. 2021 district calendar discussion.
We have 2 district calendars that we developed administratively. They increase our instructional days from 176 days to 178 days. Both of them provide a spring break of sorts. One is around the traditional Easter weekend. Number 2 is around the traditional Easter weekend. Example number 1 has more of a traditional week-long spring break in March. And we've collected feedback from the staff, and it's about split regarding which one of those calendars people like. The thing that I should talk about is Wednesday afternoons. And in the calendar, we're proposing that we have an early release for students every Wednesday afternoon. And we believe that this is also imperative to increasing our achievement. So what we're proposing is that students are dismissed at 2 o'clock on Wednesday afternoons. At the elementary level, those students that wish to participate in the after-school care program, and have the opportunity to do that. It would just start a little bit earlier. Same thing at the middle school. At the high school level, we have paraprofessionals that will be paid during that time period, and we keep the cafeteria and the library open, so it would give the students the opportunity to complete their homework. But we really will have professional development time with our staff on those Wednesday afternoons from 2 o'clock until 3:45. My goal would be to have practices for activities and events starting at 3:45. The first and third Wednesdays of every month, we have horizontal professional development. So thinking about grade level teams, we'd have the 2nd grade level team and the 3rd grade level team and the 4th grade level team, and then middle school math team, high school math and science, all meeting horizontally so they can work on common assessments and work with each other on instructional issues. The 2nd Wednesday, we have building level meetings, so we'd still maintain a building level meeting on a monthly basis. The fourth Wednesday, we have more vertical conversations, so we'd have K-12 conversations around curriculum. And the fifth Wednesday, I'd have an opportunity, I believe there's one next year, is that what someone mentioned? I was bummed out about that because that would be an opportunity for me to engage with the entire staff. So I'll probably steal a little bit more time. I'm feeling the need to be in front of the entire staff more than I have been this school year.
So looking to approve one of these
We are
calendars
not looking
tonight?
for approval tonight. We'd like to get approval next month. We just wanted you to have an opportunity to review those calendars, think about them, have conversation around those calendars if you would like this evening. We're going to bring it back next month for a vote. Jeff?
As a parent, example one, I lied because there is a designated time that we can potentially go on vacation as a family, go somewhere warm or whatever the case may be. That was one of the challenges I can tell you, just trying to find that time off. Spending quality time with the kids, instead of trying to push it all in the summertime. I'll put that out there.
I was concerned about the Wednesday, so I went out and asked a couple people at all levels. The majority of people I talked to liked actually the calendar that ended June 3rd. They wanted to get out earlier rather than later.
Is that the second?
I think that's the second calendar. Also, there's always been, if we graduate kids on the 28th of both of these calendars, those kids are really only missing 3 days of school. That used to be a concern for some board members in lieu of missing possibly, I think it's the 8th in the other calendar. Just some food for thought that goes along with that. Any other comments? Okay, moving on. Executive session. Consider adjournment to closed session under Section 19.851C, considering employment promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee of which a governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility, to wit, district administrator mid-year review. Is there a motion? So moved.
Second.
Who was that? Joanne. Discussion. Motion made by Jim, second by Joanne, to go to closed section. Is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll start this vote with Jeff.
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Lana?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Passes 7-0. We're in closed. Thank you for coming.
Happy holidays,